The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and despair. A sterile cage where my heart lay shattered alongside my body. I was 23, broken in ways no X-ray could capture. And Ethan was gone. His absence burned worse than the fractures in my ribs. It was June in Brooklyn. The kind of summer where the air clung to your skin like a bad memory. Ethan and I had been inseparable, two kids from opposite worlds who found home in each other. He was the golden boy from Manhattan's Upper East Side, all charm and reckless confidence, with eyes that promised forever. I was Caleb, the scholarship kid from a crumbling Brownsville apartment, scraping by on dreams and grit. We met at NYU, in a literature class where he argued Shakespeare was overrated, and I fell for his audacity before I knew his name. Our love was a wildfire, fierce, consuming, and impossible to control. We'd sneak onto rooftops, sharing cheap wine and whispered secrets under the city's glow. He'd trace the scars on my knuckles, relics of a childhood spent fighting to survive, and swear he'd never let me break again. I believed him. Foolishly. That night, we were walking home from a dive bar in Williamsburg, laughing about nothing, when the world turned sharp. A group of guys drunk, angry, looking for a target spotted us holding hands. Faggots. One spat, and before I could react, Ethan froze. I stepped in front of him, my old instincts kicking in, but there were too many. Fists flew, and I hit the pavement hard, my vision blurring as boots met my ribs. Ethan's voice, pleading, was the last thing I heard before the dark took me. I woke up in the hospital, tubes snaking from my arms, pain screaming through every breath. My mother, her face etched with worry, told me I'd been out for 2 days. Broken ribs, a fractured arm, a concussion, but the real wound. Ethan wasn't there. Not then. Not the next day. Not when I was discharged with a limp and a prescription for painkillers. He vanished, leaving only a text. I can't do this. I'm sorry. I spent weeks in a haze, replaying that night. Had I failed him by not fighting harder? Had he left because he blamed me? The questions gnawed at me, but answers never came. I moved back to my mom's place, unable to afford my rent alone. The city I'd once loved felt like a graveyard of our memories. Every corner store, every subway platform, every rooftop where we'd kissed. Months passed, and I rebuilt myself piece by piece. Physical therapy mended my body. Therapy for my mind was harder. I started volunteering at a community center in Bed-Stuy, helping queer kids like me navigate a world that didn't always want them. I found purpose there, a reason to keep going. But Ethan's ghost lingered. I'd see someone with his broad shoulders or hear a laugh like his, and the ache would flare anew. Then, one rainy evening in December, a knock came at my door. I opened it to find Ethan, soaked to the bone, his face a map of guilt and desperation. Caleb, he choked out, tears mixing with the rain. I'm so sorry. I stood frozen, my heart pounding. The man who'd left me broken was crying at my door, but the Caleb he'd known was gone. I wasn't sure who stood in his place or if I could let Ethan back in. The rain battered the windows of my mom's tiny apartment, a relentless drumbeat that matched the chaos in my chest. Ethan stepped inside, his leather jacket dripping onto the worn linoleum. He looked smaller than I remembered, his confidence replaced by something fragile. Can we talk? He asked, voice trembling. I wanted to slam the door, to scream at him for abandoning me when I needed him most. But something in his eyes, raw, unguarded, held me back. I nodded, gesturing to the couch. He sat, hands clasped tightly, as if anchoring himself against a storm only he could feel. I was scared. He began, staring at the floor. That night, I didn't know what to do. I saw you go down, and I ran. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. His words cut deep, reopening wounds I thought had scarred over. You left me, Ethan, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. I was in a hospital bed, and you didn't even call. I know. He looked up, eyes glistening. I was a coward. My family, they found out about us after the attack. My dad said if I didn't cut you off, he'd cut me off. No trust fund. No apartment. Nothing. I thought I could handle it. But I wasn't strong like you. Strong. The word felt like a mockery. I'd spent months feeling anything but. Yet here he was, unraveling. And I couldn't deny the pull I still felt. The love we'd had wasn't go night was buried under pain and betrayal. But it was there. We talked for hours. The rain a constant backdrop. He told me how he'd spiraled after that night drinking too much. Fighting with his family. Haunted by what he'd done. He'd started therapy. Trying to face the parts of himself he'd run from. I came out to my parents. He said quietly. They didn't take it well. But I'm done hiding. I wanted to believe him. But trust was a fragile thing. Why now? I asked. Why show up after all this time? Because I love you, he said, voice breaking. And I can't live with knowing I broke you. His confession hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. I didn't have an answer, not yet. But as he left, promising to give me time, I felt something shift. The Caleb who'd loved Ethan was still in me. But so was the Caleb who'd learned to stand alone. The days after Ethan's return were a blur of conflicting emotions. I'd lie awake at night, replaying his words, his tears, the way his hand had hovered near mine as if afraid to touch me. Part of me wanted to run back to him, to the warmth of what we'd been. But another part, the one forged in hospital rooms and lonely nights, knew I couldn't go back. I threw myself into my work at the community center. The kids there were my anchor, their resilience mirroring my own. There was Mia, a trans girl with a sharp wit and a knack for poetry. And Javier, a quiet boy who'd been kicked out by his parents for being gay. Helping them navigate their pain gave me purpose. But it also forced me to confront my own. Could I forgive Ethan? Did I even want to? One afternoon, Mia caught me staring out the window, lost in thought. You okay, Caleb? She asked, her voice soft but probing. I hesitated, then told her about Ethan, not the details. But enough. She listened, then said, You don't owe him anything. But you owe yourself the truth. Her words stuck with me. The truth was, I still loved Ethan. But love wasn't enough. Not when trust was shattered. Not when I'd spent months rebuilding myself without him. I agreed to meet Ethan at a coffee shop in Park Slope, a neutral ground. He was already there when I arrived, nursing a black coffee, his fingers tapping nervously on the table. He looked up, and for a moment, it was like no time had passed. Those hazel eyes still held the same spark that had drawn me in years ago. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said before I could speak. But I need you to know I'm trying to be better. For you. For me. For us. Us. I echoed, my voice sharper than I intended. There hasn't been an us since you walked away. He flinched, but didn't look away. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But I'm here. Caleb. I'm not running anymore. We talked for hours, peeling back layers of hurt and hope. He told me about the work he'd done volunteering at a shelter, advocating for queer rights, trying to make amends for his cowardice. I told him about the community center, the kids who'd become my family, the strength I'd found in their courage. For the first time, I saw glimpses of the Ethan I'd loved, not the scared boy who ran, but the man he was trying to become. As we left the coffee shop, he reached for my hand. I let him take it, just for a moment, and the warmth of his touch sent a jolt through me. But I pulled away. I need time, I said, He nodded, his eyes full of understanding and pain. The weeks that followed were a dance of cautious steps. We met again walks in Prospect Park, late-night talks over takeout, moments where the past felt close enough to touch. Each time, I felt the pull of what we'd had, but also the weight of what we'd lost. I wasn't the same Caleb, and Ethan wasn't the same either. The question was whether we could build something new from the ashes of what we'd been. One night, as we sat on a bench overlooking the East River, Ethan turned to me. "I know I hurt you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm here now, and I'll keep showing up until you tell me to stop." I looked at him, the city lights reflecting in his eyes, and felt the first stirrings of hope. Not for the past, but for something different. Something real. Winter tightened its grip on New York, the cold seeping into my bones as I wrestled with my feelings for Ethan. Our meetings became more frequent, each one a fragile bridge between who we were and who we might become. But trust was a slow build, and every step forward came with the shadow of doubt. At the community center, the kids noticed a change in me. Javier, usually so reserved, asked one day, "You're smiling more. Is it that guy?" I laughed, caught off guard, and admitted Ethan was back in my life. "Be careful," Javier said, his eyes older than his 17 years. "People don't change that easy." His words echoed my fears. Ethan was trying showing up consistently, sharing parts of himself he'd once kept hidden, but could I trust him not to run again? The attack had exposed his weakness, but it had also revealed my strength. I'd survived without him. Could I let myself need him again? One evening, Ethan invited me to a small gallery opening in Chelsea, where a friend of his was showcasing queer art. The gallery was warm, filled with vibrant paintings and soft chatter. Ethan moved through the crowd with ease, introducing me to artists and activists, his pride in me evident in every glance. For the first time, I saw him fully out, unapologetic, and it stirred something in me, a mix of admiration and longing. As we stood before a painting of two figures embracing under a stormy sky, Ethan turned to me. "This reminds me of us," he said. "We've been through a storm, haven't we?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah, but storms don't always mean the end." He smiled, tentative but hopeful. "Can I take you to dinner? Somewhere quiet. Just us." We ended up at a tiny Italian place, sharing pasta and stories. He told me about his childhood, the pressure to be the perfect son, the fear that kept him in the closet for so long. I shared my own scars, the fights I'd gotten into as a kid, the nights I'd gone hungry, the way his love had been the first time I felt truly seen. The conversation flowed easily, but beneath it ran an undercurrent of tension. We were circling something bigger, something neither of us was ready to name. After dinner, we walked through the snowy streets, our breaths visible in the frigid air. At a quiet corner, Ethan stopped and faced me. "Caleb, I want to be with you. Not like before, but better, stronger, if you'll let me." His words hung between us, heavy with possibility. I wanted to say yes, to fall back into him, but the memory of that hospital bed held me back. "I want to believe you," I said, "but I need to know you won't break me again." He reached for my hand, and this time I didn't pull away. "I won't," he whispered. "I swear it." That night, as I lay in bed, I felt the walls I'd built begin to crack. Not fully, not yet, but enough to let a sliver of light through. Ethan was trying, and maybe, just maybe, I could try too. Spring came to New York, tentative and fragile, like the new thing growing between Ethan and me. We weren't back to what we'd been, that was impossible, but we were building something different, something honest. We spent weekends exploring the city, rediscovering it through new eyes. Picnics in Central Park. Late-night jazz in Harlem. Quiet moments where words weren't needed. But the past was never far away. A shadow that lingered in every touch, every glance. One day, at the community center, Mia pulled me aside. "You're happy," she said, a statement more than a question. "But are you sure about him?" I wasn't sure, not completely. But I was learning to live with that uncertainty. To trust that my strength didn't depend on Ethan's choices. I'd survive the worst. I could survive whatever came next. The turning point came in April, at a rally for queer rights in Union Square. Ethan had asked me to go with him, to stand together in a way we never had before. The crowd was electric, a sea of rainbow flags and defiant voices. Ethan held my hand, his grip steady, and for the first time, I felt him fully present, not running, not hiding. As the rally ended, a group of protesters lingered, their signs hateful and sharp. I tensed, the memory of that night in Williamsburg flooding back. But Ethan didn't freeze. He stepped forward, his voice calm but firm, calling them out. When one shoved him, I was ready to jump in. But Ethan held his ground, de-escalating with words instead of fists. I saw it then, the man he was becoming. The one who'd faced his fears and chosen to fight differently. We walked home in silence, the weight of the moment settling between us. At my door, Ethan turned to me. "I'm not perfect, Caleb. I'll mess up again. But I won't run. Not ever." I looked at him, seeing the boy I'd loved and the man he was now. "I know," I said. "And I'm not the same, Caleb. I don't need you to save me anymore. But I want you here." He smiled, tears in his eyes, and kissed me. It wasn't the desperate, all-consuming kiss of our past, but something deeper rooted in forgiveness, resilience, and hope. We stood there, wrapped in each other, the city humming around us. In the months that followed, we built a life together, not perfect, but real. I kept working at the community center, helping kids like Mia and Javier find their own strength. Ethan joined me sometimes, sharing his story, showing them that change was possible. We weren't defined by the night that broke us, but by the choices we made after. Love, I learned, wasn't about being unbroken. It was about choosing to mend together, even when the pieces didn't fit perfectly. Ethan had left me broken in a hospital bed, but he was here now, and I was stronger for it. Not the same, but better, because I'd learned to love myself first.